The first time I arrived on Viridia Prime, I was nothing more than a wandering outcast, a human with no name in the council records, no claim to land, no right to speak in their chambers. The city gleamed like a jewel above the desert plains, towers of crystal and steel spiraling toward the sky, but beneath its beauty, the people regarded me with thinly veiled contempt. "He doesn't belong," they hissed. "A primitive trespasser among our kind." I let them talk. I had grown, used to it. Then I saw her, Lyra. Her presence alone seemed to bend the air, drawing attention without demanding it. She moved with a grace I had never witnessed outside legends, and yet there was a spark in her eyes, a fierce curiosity that scanned everything but judged nothing. The first time she spoke to me, I nearly faltered. "You're not from here," she said, stepping closer, her voice carrying over the whispers of the crowd. "No," I admitted. "And I don't claim to be." Her laugh was soft but defiant. "Good. Most people here pretend to be perfect, yet hide their fear behind ceremony. You don't hide anything." That was the first seed of trust, but it had to grow in fire. A week later, raiders descended upon the outer city walls. Metal beasts roared across the sands, tearing through defenses designed by generations of Viridian architects. Panic surged, and while the alien guards faltered, I moved instinctively, repairing shattered barricades, directing villagers to safety, even disarming a trap before it could claim innocent lives. Lyra arrived at my side, her own weapons singing through the air, yet she let me take the lead. "Do what you must," she said. And I did. Humans have a way of seeing possibilities where others see walls, of acting in chaos with an instinct honed by survival. That night, we saved dozens of lives that the Viridians had already written off as lost. After the battle, the council met in heated debate. "He is an anomaly. We cannot trust him," they argued. I could hear it, feel the tension pressing down like a storm cloud. And yet, Lyra stood before them, her hand on my shoulder, unwavering. "He is with me. That is all you need to know." It was then I realized my place was not earned through titles or ceremonies. It was earned in courage, in defiance of fear, in choosing to act when others hesitated. I became her shield, not because the world demanded it, but because she saw in me something her people had forgotten to value: human resilience, audacity, and the refusal to bow before impossible odds. The days that followed were a test of trust. I trained with her warriors, learned alien tactics, and yet I always found ways to improvise, to turn their assumptions against them. Lyra observed, sometimes laughing, sometimes shaking her head at my reckless ingenuity. "You're maddening," she said once, her eyes alight. And somehow, exactly what we need. But shadows loomed. Whispers of dissent spread through the city, rumors that a human at her side was a threat, a mistake, a dangerous anomaly. I felt the weight of their mistrust, but it could not sway me. Humans endure what others cannot. Humans act when others hesitate. And humans, as Lyra soon learned, will fight for those they choose to protect, even against impossible odds. By the time the next threat arrived, I was ready, not as an outcast, not as a trespasser, but as her defender. And in her eyes, I saw the truth. For all the scorn of 1,000 voices, one choice, one bond, could change the course of a world. The council's whispers had grown louder, but the raids were now relentless. Raiders came not just from the deserts, but from neighboring systems, armed with weapons no Viridian had ever seen. I studied their patterns, tracking movements humans instinctively notice, timing their attacks like a predator sizing prey. Lyra stood beside me, trusting my judgment even when her generals scoffed. The humans' adaptability amazed her people, though they would never admit it aloud. We fortified the walls with traps the aliens would never expect, combining their tech with my improvisations. As the first assault began, the raiders faltered against our unpredictability. Their advanced firepower was neutralized by human cunning. Villagers looked on, awe replacing fear, realizing perhaps humans were more than mere outcasts. And in Lyra's gaze, I saw pride that no words could convey. At night, I patrolled the outer walls, listening to the desert winds. Every shadow could hide a threat, every sound a clue. My senses, honed by years of exile, detected danger before it arrived. Lyra often joined me, silent but vigilant, trusting instincts she didn't yet fully understand. She asked questions about Earth, about humans, about why we never surrendered. I told her simply that survival is not just about strength. It is about resolve. The stars reflected in her eyes as she considered my words, her faith in me growing deeper with each patrol. I realized then that being human was an advantage here, in ways her people could scarcely comprehend. Our bond became more than loyalty. It became a symbiosis of courage and strategy. Together, we could face threats even the Viridian Council deemed impossible. The following day, the Council demanded explanations. I demonstrated the traps, the patrol routes, and the improvised defenses. Their skepticism was evident, but results spoke louder than words. Lyra stood beside me, her hand resting lightly on mine, showing the Council where trust truly belonged. I explained my plans for future attacks, predicting raider movements with startling accuracy. The Council grumbled, but none dared openly challenge her. Even the most conservative generals had to acknowledge a human's insight could save their world. Lyra's decision to trust me became a quiet rebellion of its own. And I understood that humans were exceptional not only for bravery, but for the ability to act decisively when others hesitated. When the next wave came, I led a squad of villagers, teaching them tactics they had never known. Human ingenuity was contagious. We set decoys, ambush points, and false trails that confounded the raiders. Lyra fought alongside us, her skill undeniable, but it was human improvisation that tipped the scales. The battle raged, flames and metal screaming against the desert sands, and I moved like a shadow, placing traps, signaling maneuvers. Villagers who once feared me now followed my lead without question. Lyra's people began to murmur in disbelief. A human, an outsider, had saved them when their own traditions could not. And in the aftermath, I felt the weight of what humans bring to the galaxy: unpredictability, courage, and the relentless drive to survive. As the dust settled, I found Lyra gazing at the horizon. "You are unlike anyone I have ever known," she said softly. I shrugged, weary but undeterred. "Humans rarely are," I replied. She smiled, letting her hand linger on mine. The city may have doubted me, but I had proven that one human, with trust and determination, could change the tide of war. In that moment, I realized that defending Lyra was not merely a duty. It was a purpose, a mission that defined me. And, though the future would bring new dangers, one truth remained unshakable. Humans could rise when others faltered, and together we were unstoppable. Rumors of a secret rebellion spread like wildfire through Viridia Prime. The Council whispered that the human at Lyra's side was dangerous, that he might be a spy or a saboteur. I ignored them, focusing instead on fortifying the city with strategies that combined alien technology and human ingenuity. Lyra accompanied me, her presence a beacon of reassurance to those who doubted. I trained villagers in tactics unfamiliar. To them, improvising maneuvers that no Viridian manual had ever recorded. The Council protested at first, but results silenced their objections. Humans have a way of turning impossible situations into advantage, and this city would soon learn it firsthand. I plotted patrols with precision, set traps that exploited raider psychology, and taught civilians to anticipate attacks. By the time the rebels struck, we were ready, and I watched as human strategy turned chaos into victory. Lyra and I scouted the outskirts under the twin suns, studying terrain and predicting movements. Her people had relied on predictable patterns for generations. My human perspective disrupted that logic. Every ridge, every dune, every shadow became a tool in our defense. Lyra marveled at how instinctive our coordination had become, moving in tandem without words. "You think differently," she admitted, eyes bright with wonder, "and it saves lives." I shrugged, accustomed to human problem-solving. "We survive by noticing what others ignore," I said simply. The desert winds carried our conversation, and I felt a quiet pride. Humans can endure, improvise, and overcome where others fail. When the rebels finally attacked, they were unprepared for the combination of alien strength and human cunning. I led ambushes, coordinated diversions, and devised traps that turned their weapons against them. Villagers moved with newfound confidence, inspired by human initiative, while Lyra's warriors followed my strategies rather than blindly trusting tradition. Each victory reinforced our bond, and each setback became a lesson in adaptation. The council watched in disbelief as the city resisted what had seemed unstoppable. I realized that humans are often underestimated because our strengths are not always visible. Our creativity, resilience, and courage manifest precisely when others have given up. Night fell over the desert, and we gathered survivors in the city's central plaza. Fires burned in torches, casting long shadows, but fear was replaced by determination. Lyra turned to me, eyes reflecting the flames, and whispered, "They will never doubt you again." I shook my head. "They may doubt, but humans endure," I replied. The words were not boastful, they were truth. Every improvised barricade, every saved life, every victory had proven it. And as I looked over the crowd, I realized that human resilience was contagious. Once others experienced it, it inspired courage they had never known. By dawn, the rebels had retreated, humiliated and defeated. Lyra and I surveyed the city from the highest spire, exhausted but victorious. "You are my shield," she said softly, pressing a hand to mine. I nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also the pride of achievement. One human had turned the tide of war on an alien world. The council might resent it, the people might whisper, but the truth was undeniable. Humans can achieve greatness where others cannot. And for Lyra, I would stand as her defender, as the embodiment of courage, ingenuity, and the audacity to challenge the impossible. A new threat emerged from the void beyond Viridia's system. Mercenaries with advanced cloaking tech and weapons designed to pierce the strongest defenses. The council panicked, unsure how to respond, but Lyra and I had already devised a plan. Humans have a knack for seeing angles others ignore, and I exploited weaknesses in their formation that no Viridian strategist had noticed. I mapped ambush, points, coordinated patrols, and integrated Lyra's elite warriors with improvised human tactics. Each move was calculated, each risk measured, yet flexible enough to adapt mid-battle. Lyra observed with admiration, realizing once more why humans endure when others falter. Our bond deepened as we trained side by side, blending instinct, courage, and intuition into a formidable force. By nightfall, the city stood ready, its defenses a testament to human ingenuity. As the mercenaries advanced, I led a reconnaissance mission along the jagged cliffs surrounding the city. My human instincts detected patterns in their movement, signals they never intended to send. Lyra followed silently, trusting my judgment even as her people doubted it. "You see what others cannot," she whispered. I shrugged, aware of the truth in her words. Humans survive by noticing details, improvising in chaos, and acting decisively when hesitation would be fatal. We planted traps and set decoys that funneled the invaders into kill zones, turning their superior technology against them. By the time the battle began, the mercenaries were already at a disadvantage, caught in a web of human foresight and alien strength. Lyra's warriors moved with precision, guided by strategies no one expected. The first wave of combat was brutal, metal and plasma tearing through the desert sands. I coordinated ambushes, directed villagers to safety, and improvised when unforeseen. Threats arose. Humans thrive in adversity, adapting to circumstances others cannot predict, and I leveraged every instinct to save lives. Lyra fought beside me, her blade flashing, each movement harmonizing with my tactics. The council's doubt was shattered. Even the most skeptical generals began to see the value of human intuition. Civilians cheered as our combined strategy turned the tide, witnessing firsthand what humans could achieve. And in the heat of battle, Lyra's hand found mine for a brief moment. A silent acknowledgement of trust. After the fight, I inspected the defenses and reinforced weak points the mercenaries had exposed. Lyra joined me at the battlements, her gaze scanning the horizon. "I never imagined a human could see so clearly," she admitted. I smiled faintly. "We survive by noticing what others ignore," I said. The words were simple, but carried weight, a truth the council could no longer deny. Humans are resilient, audacious, and unpredictable, and that combination made all the difference. Lyra's respect was evident in every glance, every gesture, and for the first time, I felt fully integrated into a society that had once rejected me. Together, we were more than allies. We were a force capable of reshaping destiny. By dawn, the mercenaries had retreated, confused and defeated. Lyra and I surveyed the battlefield, exhaustion mingling with triumph. "You've done what no Viridian could," she whispered, pressing a hand to my shoulder. I nodded, feeling both pride and the weight of responsibility. Humans thrive where others fail, not because we are stronger, but because we think differently, act decisively, and endure relentlessly. The council may still whisper, but our victory was undeniable. And I realized that defending Lyra was more than duty. It was proof of human potential, a testament to ingenuity, courage, and the unyielding drive to protect those we choose to stand beside. Even after victory, danger lingered in subtle forms. Rebels within the council plotted in shadowed chambers, fearing the influence a human held over Lyra. I anticipated their moves, reading hidden cues and overheard conversations, a skill humans refine through years of struggle and survival. Lyra confided in me, admitting her frustration at traditions that hampered her people's safety. Together, we devised strategies that used both alien precision and human adaptability, preparing for threats no one else could foresee. Humans see opportunities in chaos, and I exploited that vision to safeguard the city. Villagers trained under my guidance, learning unconventional tactics that amplified the defenders' capabilities. Lyra watched in awe as her people transformed, inspired by human ingenuity, and every success strengthened the unspoken bond between us, a bridge spanning two worlds. The council's dissenters attempted sabotage, seeking to undermine our efforts from within. I uncovered their schemes, predicting actions no Viridian could have anticipated. Lyra accompanied me, observing human methods with curiosity and admiration. "Your instincts save more than lives," she said. "They shape destinies." I merely nodded. Instinct is a human weapon honed through generations of survival. We confronted the saboteurs, neutralizing threats before damage could occur, proving that adaptability and foresight were as critical as any blade or shield. Civilians watched, inspired by the human who had once been an outcast, now a hero. And in every glance Lyra gave me, I saw recognition of the truth humans carry. audacity, resourcefulness, and courage can overturn even the most entrenched traditions. Led reconnaissance missions deeper into the desert, mapping enemy strongholds that hid beyond the dunes. Humans have an ability to read terrain, anticipate hazards, and improvise where rules fail. Lyra followed, learning to trust human judgment over protocol, and together, we turned every disadvantage into advantage. Our coordinated maneuvers became legendary among the defenders, blending alien combat skill with human strategy. The city's defenses became nearly impenetrable, a fortress of innovation born from human ingenuity and alien might. Even the council began to recognize that humans are not merely outsiders, they are catalysts for evolution in any society. And I knew that protecting Lyra was no longer just my duty. It was my purpose, my calling, my proof that humanity matters. When the final internal threat revealed itself, a conspiracy of influential council members, I orchestrated a counterstrike. Using human intuition and unconventional tactics, we exposed traitors, turned the tables, and secured Lyra's position. Humans excel where others adhere blindly to tradition. We improvise, adapt, and act decisively. Lyra's admiration for human resourcefulness grew with each maneuver. The city saw that a human's insight could protect them where alien expertise alone failed. And as I stood beside Lyra, hand clasped over hers, I understood that humans were capable of shaping worlds through courage, strategy, and unyielding loyalty. The council may whisper, but results cannot be denied. By the end of the week, Viridia Prime was safer than it had ever been. Lyra and I stood on the highest tower, surveying a city transformed by human ingenuity and fearless determination. "You are more than an outcast," she said softly. "You are my defender." I felt the weight of that title, and the truth of it settled deep within me. Humans thrive where others falter, not by strength alone, but by vision, courage, and the refusal to yield. Lyra's people may have doubted, but the victories proved otherwise. And as the twin suns rose over the horizon, I understood that standing by her side was both my duty and my greatest triumph. A distant signal arrived, warning of a fleet approaching from beyond the system. Unlike previous threats, these invaders possessed advanced AI and coordinated strategies far beyond anything the Council had encountered. Lyra and I prepared the city, integrating human tactics with alien technology. My experience in survival and improvisation became the backbone of our defense plan. Humans adapt to threats by reading patterns and exploiting weaknesses others overlook. I devised a series of traps, feints, and counterattacks that leveraged every edge available, Lyra observed, marveling at how human ingenuity created opportunities where none seemed to exist. The citizens trained under my guidance, embodying human resilience and courage. And in that preparation, I realized that humans do not simply survive. They transform the battlefield into a proving ground for audacity. As the fleet neared, I coordinated aerial defenses with the city's artillery, creating layers of protection no alien strategy could easily breach. Lyra commanded from the front lines, her skill unmatched, but my human perspective allowed us to predict enemy maneuvers before they executed them. The battle commenced with blinding energy and deafening explosions. Villagers and warriors alike moved in patterns I had trained them to follow, turning chaos into coordinated precision. Humans excel in adversity, improvising solutions in real time, and I exploited that to devastating effect. Lyra's admiration for human insight deepened. With every maneuver, her faith in me unshakable. And though the odds were immense, our combined strength held firm. In the heart of combat, I noticed a flaw in the enemy's formation, something their AI could not adjust for. Using rapid improvisation, I redirected forces, creating a decisive advantage. Lyra moved alongside me, her blade cutting through chaos, her trust in human intuition absolute. The Council could only watch as a single human's insight turned the tide, validating years of skepticism. Humans endure, adapt, and overcome through observation, strategy, and audacity. Every maneuver demonstrated that our species is not merely physical but intellectual, capable of solving impossible problems under pressure. The invaders faltered and the city rallied, inspired by a human who had once been an outcast. After hours of relentless fighting, the fleet retreated, defeated, and humiliated. Lyra and I surveyed the aftermath, standing amid ruins yet surrounded by hope. "I cannot imagine this city without you," she admitted, her voice steady despite exhaustion. I smiled faintly. "Humans are at our best when others falter," I replied. She nodded, understanding the truth not in words but in results. Our victories were not accidents. They were proof that humanity's combination of courage, ingenuity, and determination could alter the course of worlds. And in that moment, I felt more than pride. I felt the weight of potential, the responsibility to uphold that legacy. By nightfall, the city celebrated its resilience. I stood beside Lyra, watching the lights shimmer across the towers, knowing our bond had transcended duty. Humans thrive where others cannot, not because we are invincible, but because we refuse to yield, improvise when needed, and protect what we love with unwavering commitment. Lyra's people finally began to whisper a new truth. The human who was once an outcast had become the defender they never knew they needed. And as we gazed at the stars, I realized that my place was not just at her side, but at the forefront of human potential, shaping a galaxy that had doubted us for far too long. Rumors of a final assault reached us, an alliance of mercenaries and rogue council factions, determined to remove Lyra and seize the city. I studied every report, every movement, and devised strategies that combined human ingenuity with Viridian precision. Lyra stood beside me, her trust unwavering, knowing that I could anticipate dangers the council overlooked. Humans thrive where others hesitate, turning chaos into opportunity. I trained the defenders, improvised traps, and prepared contingencies that no alien mind could predict. The city itself became a fortress shaped by human creativity and instinct. Civilians followed my guidance, learning to act decisively, and Lyra's admiration for humanity deepened as each preparation reinforced a single truth. Humans endure and adapt. The battle began before dawn, shadows stretching across the dunes. As invaders approached, my human instincts guided our forces, predicting enemy tactics with startling accuracy. Lyra led charges at critical points, her skill unmatched, yet she deferred to my judgment in moments where improvisation mattered most. Villagers moved with confidence, executing maneuvers I had trained them to perform. Humans excel under pressure, finding patterns and exploiting weaknesses when others panic. Each clash revealed our advantage. Alien technology was precise, but human creativity was unpredictable. I coordinated counterattacks, turning enemy strength into their downfall. Lyra's hand clasped mine during the fight, a silent acknowledgement of our shared purpose, and despite the chaos, we advanced together, unstoppable in our unity. Midway through the battle, I discovered a hidden flank where the enemy had intended to breach the city. Using traps, diversions, and human cunning, I neutralized the threat before it could cause devastation. Lyra fought alongside me, her trust absolute, marveling at how human strategy could overcome overwhelming odds. The council's skepticism vanished in the face of results, replaced by awe and grudging respect. Humans survive by noticing what others ignore, improvising where rules fail, and acting decisively. Each victory reinforced our bond and inspired the defenders around us. Civilians began to whisper that perhaps humans were more than outsiders. They were a force of destiny. And I realized that Lyra's belief in me was a testament to humanity itself, capable of turning hopeless situations into triumph. As night fell, The final wave pressed forward, desperate and ruthless. I directed forces with precision, exploiting terrain and enemy psychology to devastating effect. Lyra moved through the battle like a blade of light, her movements guided by both skill and trust in my decisions. Villagers who had once feared me now acted with courage and coordination, executing plans only humans could devise. Each moment showcased our species' advantage, adaptability, creativity, and relentless determination. By dawn, the invaders had crumbled, defeated not by numbers alone, but by the human capacity to endure and innovate. Lyra's gaze met mine, admiration and gratitude shining brighter than the rising suns, and I understood that our combined strength, human ingenuity and alien prowess, had secured the city and shaped its future. After the battle, the city lay in ruin yet alive with hope. Lyra and I walked the streets, observing how human ingenuity had saved countless lives. "You've done more than defend me," she said softly. "You've changed everything." I smiled, weary but resolute. "Humans endure where others fail," I replied. Lyra nodded, understanding the truth not in words but in deeds. The council now saw what they had once rejected: a human's mind. Courage and determination could protect and inspire an entire world. And as we stood on the highest spire, watching the twin suns rise over the city, I knew that my role as her defender was more than duty. It was proof of humanity's potential to rise above every challenge. In the weeks that followed, the city began to rebuild, its people inspired by the human who had stood beside their princess. Lyra and I coordinated recovery efforts, blending alien technology with human improvisation. I trained engineers and strategists, teaching methods that turned disaster into opportunity. Humans excel not only in battle but in adaptation, finding solutions others dismiss as impossible. The council's grudging respect evolved into admiration, though some still muttered behind closed doors. Lyra often took my hand during these planning sessions, a quiet acknowledgement that our bond was unbreakable. Villagers now approached me for guidance, trusting the human who had once been an outcast, and in their eyes, I saw what humans always seek: purpose, recognition, and the ability to make a difference. But peace is never simple. A delegation from a distant system arrived, offering alliances and testing our loyalty. Lyra consulted with me, valuing my perspective over protocol, knowing that human insight could uncover motives hidden beneath diplomatic pleasantries. I analyzed every gesture, every nuance, and anticipated threats the council could not perceive. Humans survive by noticing what others ignore, by acting decisively when hesitation would be fatal. I guided Lyra through negotiations, ensuring our people remained safe while forging opportunities for growth. The delegation left cautiously impressed, a testament to human foresight and adaptability. Lyra's admiration deepened, recognizing that humans shape outcomes through courage and intellect. And I understood that defending her meant safeguarding not just her life, but the destiny of an entire civilization. A new crisis emerged when remnants of the mercenary fleet threatened trade routes, demanding tribute and obedience. I devised a plan to intercept them, combining unconventional human tactics with Viridian fleet coordination. Lyra insisted on joining the command center, her presence steady and inspiring. Villagers and soldiers executed maneuvers they had once thought impossible, guided by human ingenuity and courage. The fleet was neutralized without unnecessary casualties, a display of strategy and human resourcefulness. Even the council could no longer argue against the value of human insight. Lyra looked at me with pride, her faith in humanity, and in me unshakable. And I realized that humans have a way of turning adversity into triumph, leaving lasting impacts on worlds that once doubted us. I spent nights training with Lyra, honing strategies and sharing knowledge, building a foundation that would protect Viridia for generations. Humans have a unique ability to innovate under pressure, and I demonstrated that skill to her people in ways they had never imagined. Lyra watched, fascinated by how instinct, creativity, and courage could combine to create solutions beyond tradition. Even skeptical council members began to take note, whispering that humans were more than anomalies. They were essential allies. Villagers trained tirelessly, inspired by a human's example, embracing skills they had thought impossible. And, through it all, Lyra and I grew closer, united by trust, strategy, and a bond forged in adversity. By the end of the month, Viridia had transformed. Its citizens had learned the value of adaptability and courage, inspired by the human who had been cast out. Lyra stood beside me on the highest tower, watching the city thrive. "You've done more than protect me," she said, her voice steady, with emotion. "You've shown us all what humanity can achieve." I nodded, understanding that this was more than praise. It was a recognition of potential. Humans endure, adapt, and inspire. And as the twin suns set, casting gold across the towers, I knew that my journey as Lyra's defender had reshaped not only our bond, but the fate of a world that once doubted me. The final challenge came quietly, a hidden faction seeking to reclaim power by sowing distrust between humans and Viridians. I anticipated their moves, predicting deceptions before they unfolded. Lyra trusted my judgment implicitly, standing beside me as I exposed the conspirators. Humans survive where others hesitate, turning insight and intuition into decisive action. Villagers and soldiers executed countermeasures seamlessly, their confidence inspired by human example. The faction was dismantled without bloodshed, their schemes revealed and neutralized. Even the council, once hostile, acknowledged the value of a human mind guiding strategy, and Lyra, placing her hand in mine, silently confirmed what words could not capture. Our bond was unbreakable, and our triumph complete. Peace settled over Viridia Prime, the city thriving under a new era of unity. Lyra and I oversaw reconstruction, blending alien tradition with human adaptability. Every corner reflected ingenuity born of survival, courage, and relentless problem-solving. Humans excel where others falter, and their influence reshaped a society that had once rejected me. The citizens no longer whispered "Outcast." They spoke my name with respect, marveling at what one human could achieve. Lyra's admiration was constant, her trust absolute, and together we led a city that had embraced the impossible. And in the quiet moments, I realized that defending her was no longer an act of survival. It was a testament to the extraordinary potential of humanity. A festival of victory celebrated the resilience of the city and the bond between Lyra and me. Music echoed through towers, laughter mingled with the desert breeze, and I felt the weight of every trial overcome. Humans endure, adapt, and inspire, and the people of Viridia had learned that firsthand. Lyra stood at my side, her gaze steady, a silent acknowledgement of everything we had endured together. The council bowed in recognition, and the citizens cheered, a chorus of gratitude and awe. And as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting golden light across a city reborn, I understood that humanity's courage, ingenuity, and loyalty had changed the fate of a world. In the quiet of night, Lyra and I watched the stars, knowing that future challenges would come. But humans have a way of meeting adversity head-on, of finding solutions where others see none. She turned to me, voice soft but firm. "You are my defender, my partner, and my inspiration." I squeezed her hand, understanding that my journey had transcended survival. It had become legacy. The city slept peacefully beneath our watch, a testament to human potential realized. And as I gazed at the horizon, I knew one truth above all. Humans endure, innovate, and protect, leaving their mark on every world they touch. The whispers of doubt were gone, replaced by admiration, respect, and the promise of a future forged together. As dawn broke over Viridia Prime, the twin suns illuminating a city transformed, I knew my place was secure. Not as an outcast, but as a human who had proven what we are capable of. Lyra stood beside me, her hand in mine, and I realized that defending her was more than duty. It was the embodiment of everything humans represent: courage, resilience, ingenuity, and the unyielding will to rise. Together, we would face any challenge, reshape any destiny, and prove that humans are a force the galaxy cannot ignore. And in that moment, as light bathed the towers, I finally understood the truth of our story. Her people called me an outcast, but she called me her defender, and that was enough to change the universe.